Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to freely assemble and petition the government for a redress of their grievances. It's the First Amendment. It's all that matters.
Excuse me a second. Let me get comfortable. Welcome to another episode of the Rick Castellano Show. Excuse me a minute. It's 2012. Great Granny made me up a special batch. Granny, I'm wrecking your label. Scrumply yumptious. Granny, it might be aged a couple extra years. Got a kick to it. Tonight, we're going to celebrate a couple of athletes, 2011, 2012. First up, QB himself, Mr. Rochester, Corey Benedetto. I got his uniform on. There may be a future prediction of what may be. The Dolphins sure could use him. Anyways, Cor, I have a couple of highlights of this season. Well, a couple. If I had to play them back to back, I could fill every show I got from here to June. Anyway, Corey Benedetto, I hope you guys like this as much as I do. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed it. Now Castellano's got a little, we're gonna get serious, folks. Big time player. Some people think he stinks. Some people think he's great. Some people like his beliefs in God. Other people despise him for it. I don't know why. But Tim Tebow, Denver Broncos, number 15. Excuse me a second. Whether you like him or not, I like him. I'm going to have a little toast to my buddy, and I'm going to explain why I like him. First off, for the people you don't like him, that don't like him, I don't need that right now because I got a lot of talking to do. Okay, one. This gentleman, when his mom was pregnant with him, his mother, the doctors, like so many times, they tell you, ma'am, this may be a difficult pregnancy. Maybe you should have an abortion. Ma'am, it might, the baby might not come out perfect, ma'am. You should have an abortion. You should have an abortion. She was told this, Mrs. Tebow was told this so many times that they talked about it and they prayed about it. Finally, she said, even if it means her losing her own life, she was going to keep the baby. Well, she kept the baby. Guess what, folks? Came out perfectly healthy, beautiful little baby boy. No problem, a little small at birth. Everything was fine. But you know what? They hate her for this. Because why? The expert said, have an abortion. You should have an abortion. And she didn't. There was no problems like they said there would be. Now, I'm not saying that all abortions are bad. That all Castellano thinks, I got a good book here that makes the rules, but Castellano thinks certain things are certain things and certain ways are certain ways, but I don't make the rules, folks. I don't make the rules. Anyway, as far as the thing goes, they want you to have an abortion too easy. They think, what? Because you'll be inconvenienced, you might have a headache, you might have back pain, abort it. No. Anyways, Mrs. Tebow had the baby, went on to be a great college athlete, strong, healthy, decent looking kid. Well, not totally handsome, but he's all right looking. But anyway, he went on, and when he played college football before the national championship, he should put Bible verses underneath his eyes. Bible verse? What kind of guy to put Bible verses underneath his eyes? Anyways, they went on to win. Nobody thought they'd win. So right before the national championship, Mr. Tebow said he wanted to put John 3:16 on his eyes. In case you guys are unfamiliar with John 3:16, Castellano, put that aside and I'll get serious for a second. King James Version of the Bible, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever so believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Okay. That's what he put underneath his eyes before a national championship. A lot of guys on a team that wore the same socks the whole season because they wanted to be lucky and they worried about luck. They only ate a certain meal before the game. He had a different verse on his eyes. I wish I could recall it right now, but I can't recall it right now. But something about pulling together and him believing and whatever. But anyways, he decided national championship. Everybody will be a ton of people watching. He wanted to show how his firm belief in God. So he prayed about it, even though people said, don't change the verse underneath your eyes. Put John 3:16 on his eyes, underneath his eyes. What happened, folks? They win the national championship. Won. Underdogs. Demolished them. They win the game. And guess what? John 3:16, it was the most Googled thing for a whole week straight. So he got his point across. Not that he's trying to push his religion on you. That's how much he cares. Because you know what? If you listen to the doctors, the Obama administration, all the rest of the people, abortions are for everyone. Hey, we'll pay Planned Parenthood. No. His mom decided to have him. Sarah Palin, everybody hates. Why do they hate Sarah Palin? Because they told her she was going to have a retarded baby. But she said she's going to love the baby anyways, and she decided to have it. Castellano admits it would be very, really, very difficult if a doctor told me that your baby's going to be born mentally retarded, because my baby wasn't born retarded. That it would be hard. But I guess because Castellano had a hard time himself, I would have had it too. But I had to learn that. It's not something that you might have been able, the old Castellano, you might have been able to talk me into it. Hey, it's going to be born retarded. But you know what? The new Castellano says, no, I believe the book. But anyways, Tebow, mom went against the wisdom of the world. The wisdom of the world rotates, oh, I don't have it. She did. She's a missionary. She sacrifices. She could have luxury. She could have eaten great food. She goes to Africa and different countries to do her missionary work. And guess what? Guess what this gentleman by the name of Tim Tebow does in his spare time? He's a missionary. He goes on his vacation time, his off season, to help people. What? Rick, what are you trying to say? You mean to tell me you don't drive fancy cars? You mean to tell me you don't spend money and do drugs and snort coke and like the rest of the boys and have a good time all the time? No. He dedicates his life to helping other people. He's a sincerely good guy. He cares and he's compassionate. But let's hate them. Let's hate him. Let's hate him. He don't kill dogs. He's a sissy. He don't kill dogs. I'm butcher him.
anybody?
Yeah, don't murder anybody over at a Louisiana bar with his gang, and they couldn't say who did it, so they get off a little misdemeanor, a couple, assault charge or something, and they're playing in the NFL, hitting, running somebody and killing somebody and paying a couple $100,000 to people and get out of it. No, DWIs, unheard of. This guy's a sissy. You mean, yeah. Yeah, he had to bring his gun because he's going out with the boys at a New York bar and he shot himself in the leg. No, that little sissy, what does he do? He prays to God. He thanks God for him being alive. You know why? Because if it wasn't for God, if his parents didn't believe in God, he would have been aborted. So he's grateful. So if he's a sissy, I'm a sissy. Let's get back to the story. The story's just getting good. You know what? Castellano's back. I'm not holding nothing back. He went on, and he had a pretty good season this year. He won about 6 games in a row as a starter. Doing great. Winning games at the last minute. You call them
Rookie.
Miracle, Mile High, all kinds of names. Everybody's jumping on the Tebow bandwagon. A couple people hated him. Why? Because before the game, he'd go in the end zone or by himself and pray. They call it T-bone. That's not what he calls it. But he'll go pray to his God. They hate him. I don't know why. Most of America says they believe in God. It says over 70% of the country believes in God. This guy doesn't want to give any recognition, anything else. He believes in God. What does he do? After a game, somebody makes a good play here, he makes a good play. He don't take the credit for himself. He gives it to God or the other players on the team. He says the other players on the team make him look good. That's what Mr. Tebow says. Anyway, so goes on a good winning streak. More and more haters because they hate him because he's goody two-shoes. Then he loses 3 games in a row. New England, Kansas City, I don't know. Lost Buffalo Bills, the lowly Buffalo Bills. They finally came on. But, excuse me a second. God didn't say that he cares about football. God doesn't care about football. God doesn't say, oh, pray and your football team will win. No. God cares about men. God cares about what he says in his word, and he wants you. Even if you're a tyrant right now, you got a chance to turn around. Everybody does. Even if people Castellano despises, you have a chance. I don't make the rules. He does. Anyway, 3 games. He has a poor game. Then one of the teams I despise so much in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens. No, I'm not talking about Ray Lewis. I hate that guy. I hate him. And you know what? If Castellano was a little younger, I'd go into one of those Louisiana bars and I'd bounce him around. But you know what? Castellano isn't a young man anymore. Not to hang around in Louisiana bars because I drag him around. Yeah, or maybe he's a good tackler on the field because he's real fast and stuff like that. He could hit you from the side. Let him come one-on-one. I'd butt heads with him. Ray Lewis, smoke him. Anyway. That's not who I'm talking about now. I'm talking about Suggs. Oh, yeah. Where's his God now? Tim Tebow. He stinks. Where does God kick the 62-yard field goal? What? We're talking about Suggs. Did you look at his police record? This loser, this criminal. Terry Bradshaw called you out, you insect. Anyway, Tim Tebow. Suggs. So you made fun of him. Buddy, now you crossed the line. Not that you made fun of Tim Tebow, Terry Bradshaw on TV, said you're a punk. Not because you made fun of Tim Tebow. He said he don't agree with you on it, but you think Tim Tebow's a bum? That's fine. He don't care. But he said you messed with the man upstairs. He said, Suggs, I don't care what you say about Tebow, but you better get on your hands and knees because you made a big mistake, and you better pray to God for forgiveness because he's the man with all the answers. He's the man that makes decisions. So what happened, Mr. Suggs, you and the rest of your Looney Tunes that talked about Tebow? This weekend, they play the 12-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, mind you, Terry Bradshaw was a former Pittsburgh Steeler, classy guy, believes in God. That's why he told you, Mr. Suggs, get on your hands and knees. But Ben Roethlisberger loves John Elway. That's why he's number 7. He picked number 7 because he idolized the way John Elway played football. Nothing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nothing. They played a hard game. Ben was hurt. They had a couple men injured. They played a tough game. Pittsburgh Steelers are a classic game. But you made a mistake. All you people that want to mock God, God shall not be mocked. What happened? Denver beat Denver. 8-8 Denver that made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. Not because they won their way through, because they had the best record in a weak division. Went on, and Pittsburgh, a 12-4 Pittsburgh had to play in Denver. Had to play. They had a better record in Denver, but because Denver won their division and Pittsburgh didn't, they had to play in Denver. What happened in the game? Tim Tebow did last couple of games, he didn't pass too well. They didn't let him. They were holding him back because they wanted to win Garner out. They wanted to try to grind it out to try to guarantee the win. Passed for 65 yards the week before. I don't know. Lowly large yards. And this week, after all you naysayers, not about Tim Tebow making fun of God, he passed for 316 yards. 316. 316. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that ever so believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life? Wait a minute, that's got to be a coincidence. A coincidence? Well, guess what? He passed the ball 10 times for 31.6 yards. Oh, what's the coincidence of that? There's no coincidences with God. 316. 316, famous number. He wore the national championship under his eyes. 316, you said there wasn't a God. You said, where's his God now? There's where he is. You know what? Do I think Tim Tebow did it? No, I think God used him to do it. No way in the world. Is that in NFL history, that's the fastest overtime ever. The fastest in history, Tim Tebow did. Tim Tebow didn't do it because they had somebody helping. And what did he do? He needed 80 yards. They kicked the ball off into the end zone way up in the air. It's on the 20-yard line. Now, even if you could even imagine it, he says, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to throw an 80-yard pass to get 316 yards. No. Nobody knew. Nobody could do something like that. And 80 yards down the field against the number 1 ranked defense. 316. Then the topper. God doesn't make it look like it's a coincidence. He makes it. I'm going to let him throw 10 passes that average 31.6 yards a carry. No coincidence, folks. Tim Tebow, am I going to say they're going to go on next week in the semifinals and beat New England? No, I'm not going to say that. New England's an evil team. You know what? Tom Brady was afraid the first time that Denver played him. Denver was winning 16-0 at halftime, demolishing them. Then they made mistakes. Tebow got the ball knocked out of his hand when he was going back, when he was scrambling around. First fumble. They recovered. I think they scored. Then one of the running backs fumbled. They recovered. They didn't score right away. They scored a couple plays later. Then on the next kickoff, they kick it off, and their starting kick returner and end, Decker, was hurt. So he had Royal back there. He goes to catch a punt, muffs it. 3 fumbles in a row. New England came back. Brady was all real humble until they put the finishing touches. Then he's spiking the ball in front of their face. You know what? I hope these guys talk up a big game because God won't get involved in football. He doesn't get involved in football. But don't let them not be humble. Let Brady open his mouth this week. Let some of the other guys in the field open his mouth. God shall not be mocked. But if they're smart, they'll keep their mouth shut and play football. Then it's just a football game. So was God going to help make Tebow win because he believes in God? No, God is not like that. But will God show you that he's there? Yes, he will. Folks, you're watching the Rick Castellano show. Watch us each and every week, 5 days a week, 2 times a night. You're going to hear a lot of this. And folks, many of you guys didn't know Castellano's Christian. Well, I am. I'm a firm believer in all. Oh, by the way, folks, I forgot to tell you the title of the show. Heroes and Zeros 2. What can we talk about? We talked about Corey Benedetto, All-Star Rochester, All-Greater Rochester, Tim Tebow, Denver Broncos. Folks, First time they made the playoffs in years. And they won the first game. They beat Pittsburgh. Now, heroes. What could I say? What do you think I forgot? My old buddy. Excuse me a second. Obama, whatever you want to call him. First, front page news. White House Chief of Staff resigning. Where the guy? He didn't give pig knuckle sandwiches to Michelle at 3 o'clock in the morning? We lost another one. You know why Rahm Emanuel left and went back to Chicago? Because Michelle didn't like him. Why? Because she kept him out of the loop. Did you know she wanted to, when president, and I use the term El Presidente is more like it, became president, she wanted to stay in Chicago and stay there. She didn't want to be inconvenienced. They had to move over to the White House. She wanted to stay in Chicago. Well, anyway, did you also know about Michelle Maybell? Her $300,000 job she had at the hospital? It was so important that when she left to go with President Obama, they didn't fill it again. It was such an important job, they didn't even fill it again for half the price. Could you say scam? Could you say kickback? That's how she got the $300,000 job. It must have been so important. They needed it to pay. She leaves, they eliminate it.
No show.
But anyway, Mr. Obama has White House Chief of Staff William Daley is resigning. He's being replaced by Jacob Lew. Who? Lew! You goof! Anyways, which brings us to the next story. Folks, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Don't think Castellano doesn't read the local news too. Article written by Ed Maslona from Webster. Obama's record will hurt him in 2011 election. I certainly hope so. But you know what? I'm reading this probably for the second time because I haven't read it in a while, but I'm going to see what it says, what you have to say. In November 2008, the American electorate participated in the democratic process of choosing a president with that election. Barack Obama received the trust of American people to implement his policies. During his first 2 years, he had the support of both Democrat-controlled houses of Congress. The majority of his agenda, remember, he had the House and the Senate, so he had the control of both of them. During his first 2 years, he had the support of both Democrat-controlled houses of Congress. The majority of his agenda included the stimulus package, government-mandated health care, were passed, Louisiana Purchase, the California kickback, I don't know, the Cornhusker kickback, there's so many of them. Corrupt. We're gonna save you money. Everybody's insurance is going to go down. Lie! But let me stick to Mr. Masalona's story here. Anyway, his mandated health care were passed. Unemployment is higher than when the president took office. If you don't pass the stimulus package, unemployment will go to 8%. Lie! It went well over. But anyways, unemployment is higher. Economic growth is negligible. Obamacare is very unpopular. National debt is skyrocketed and unbelievable. A budget was never passed. A budget hasn't been passed in over 1,000 days in counting. It's probably like 3 years now. No budget. You know why? If they pass a budget, they got to control their spending. No budget, 3 years. What kind of business runs like that? They're running our country without a budget. Not 30 days, 40, over 1,000 days. Only with the Democrats could you get away with this.
Take it up!